welcome to The Lobby, GameSpot's weekly chat show every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on GameSpot.com. I'm your host, Daniel Dwyer, joined by Mr. Justin Haywald.
Howdy, howdy.
How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. There's a lot of news this week, so
there is.
So join you guys.
What better person to come on to tell us all about that stuff? And of course, Alexa Ray Correa, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing better because I heard that a game that might have gone missing, The Last Guardian, looked like the trademark was getting, Sony hadn't updated the trademark, but then that seems that might be a clerical error.
And did you ever think that it would actually be going away? Do you
yes.
really think that at this point,
after E3 last year when they didn't show it off, because everyone said, oh, they're showing it off this year, all the whispers in the industry said it's definitely and then nada, and then I thought, you know what, maybe not. And you produced a great video last week with Mary about sort of games that have dropped off our radar.
I did. Yeah, and there are a lot of them that have dropped off our radar, actually. The Last Guardian was not included, but they include things like, I think people forgot that there's a new Gears of War in development, and Cliff Blazinski's Project Blue Streak. I think we're going to hear more about that at GDC. He has a panel. The Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem crossover, the new Crackdown, the new Phantom Dust, the new Mirror's Edge. There's a lot of things that have sort of been announced and then gone by the wayside. There have been long stretches. Cyberpunk 2077.
Yep.
The Witcher 3 guys. Where is that game?
That was a really good trailer.
That was an awesome trailer.
Yeah, for something we've not seen anything else of. I guess they've probably got their hands full at the moment with
The Witcher.
With The Witcher. Coming out in just a couple of months.
And The Last Guardian is kind of a weird case because I remember when I first started into video games, back in 2008, that was something that was announced. And every year they've renewed the trademark, and so a lot of people were scared for The Last Guardian because suddenly Sony didn't renew the trademark, and it's something we haven't heard about for such a long time. They were like, well, guess that means it's canceled. And Sony was like, no, we assure you, still in development. But that's literally all we've heard for the past 3 years is we haven't seen anything new. It's just in development. Ueda, the Fumito Ueda, who has worked on the game, who's worked with that studio for such a long time and is the creative vision behind it, has basically said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I contributed what I needed to that game, and I'm out. So now we're just we assume it's going to be a PS4 game, but literally nothing.
So is that not a massive worry that the clout, the reason people were interested in The Last Guardian was because of the development clout behind it, and then it just seems like maybe now they have this name that has such an attachment to it that they're just going to push out something years later that won't actually have anything to do with the creative seed that it first started from.
Man, it would be such an interesting story to be behind the scenes and just to see the drama that must be going on there. That has to be really stretched out now. Probably not. Day to day, it's probably really boring. But if you were able to condense it now, if you were able to do one of those behind the scenes things, but that happens to a lot of games. Sometimes it really hurts them. Duke Nukem.
Yeah, absolutely.
A long time for that, and switching so many studios. Whereas Sony, for them, they've kept this a lot more under wraps. We really don't know what's going on. We haven't seen it in different versions. We don't know what those changes have been. So, it could be any number of problems that have kept it from coming out. But it could also be because they're trying to find the best way to bring it out, or maybe what they were coming up with for PS3 didn't really translate over to PS4. And it could be really good now. Maybe. Well,
hopefully we'll find out over the next 5 months or so with GDC coming up in a couple of weeks. E3, though, is when obviously we see so many new game announcements. Last year there was absolutely tons of them. Some we've not heard of since. I think of games like Phantom Dust, Scalebound, Crackdown.
Yeah. They've mentioned them. I know that one of the Microsoft producers has gone on a couple podcasts and been you're going to find out more at E3, or Scalebound is going to be a 60-hour RPG. But we don't really know what Scalebound is yet.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what the new Crackdown is yet. We just have that trailer. Same with the Phantom Dust reboot. So I think E3 will be big for those three. Microsoft is going to give us everything we want, or they can give right now for those three.
Surely some sort of new Gears.
The new Gears, maybe, because they released an update last year where Rod Ferguson showed a concept art that was blurred out. So we know that they're working on it. Maybe we'll get an announcement. That'd be nice. Now that the Xbox One's doing fairly well, I think now would be a good time to announce it.
And that kind of thing doesn't mean that those are in trouble. We, in the same way that movies, you'll see a trailer for something at Comic-Con, And that just means that, they're teasing it, they're working on it, and you really don't want to hear too much more about it. Like, sometimes seeing too much can set up expectations or things can change.
Yeah.
Like a really good example is Bioshock Infinite, where we saw a lot of that game in the lead up, and a lot of that didn't get into the final game.
Yeah, if you watch that first trailer now, it's like, it's so far removed from what actually came out.
Yeah, they weren't able to use those ideas, or they had to use them in different ways. You have to scale back, because of the reality of making these games on these huge budgets.
Last week as well, we heard about something else that's going to be happening at E3 that I'm very, very excited about, which is that Bethesda Softworks are going to be having their own little Ubisoft EA-style show and tell. What games do you think might come up in that?
It's got to be Fallout 4. This is their first ever press conference. It's got to be Fallout 4. We've had the new Doom that's in development right now. We'll probably see more of that.
Yeah,
hopefully.
that was like, they showed that at QuakeCon.
It was like
last year there was a tease.
Only people in the room saw it though, so no one outside of there.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna jump out on a limb and say that we're gonna see another Dishonored.
Yeah, Dishonored 2, good shout. Maybe a Wet 2. That hot franchise Wet.
Maybe.
Those are the things you want to bring out when you're going to do your own conference. But do you think they're going to do a full conference? Do you think it would be, going the route of Nintendo and doing that kind of
Just
video direct thing?
Yeah.
Which could be cool too.
I think they have with the amount of like what Bethesda is now is like they're just publishing so much stuff that they have enough fans to like fill out a room and like say this is everything we have. Like if Ubisoft can do it right now, I think like Bethesda are in a good place to do it as well. I'm kind of with you. I don't think they can do that without announcing Fallout 4 and like the amount of rumblings about it last year. Myself and Andy put out a video last year saying like it's definitely going to be at E3 this year. Like there's too many people talking about it and then nothing. And like I was absolutely gutted, but there's still like those voices are still saying like, What's that team? What's the Skyrim team been working on since then? Like they have to be working on something, and the good money's on Fallout, right?
This has to be it.
Or it could be a collectible card game. Follow that Hearthstone model, right. But it'll be match 3, and you'll have like little Fallout heads. And
I guess we'll have to wait and see. E3 is on in a couple of months. GDC though is on in a couple of weeks. That seems to be the time of year when all those secrets like start to come out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drinking at GDC. I mean, GDC is not an E3 level conference. It is the game developers conference, and traditionally it's always been for game developers. But more and more, it is a place where people are showing off new stuff, and we know a lot of things. Like they've been very public with some stuff that's going to be at the show. Steam is going to be showing off new Steam machines. Microsoft has said they're going to have a big presence. Like there are going to be games there, which is in some ways takes away from the spirit of what GDC is about, but it's really exciting for us, like especially since it's right down the road, it's right next to us, and a lot of people hang out. There's a lot of game developers, and not all of them are as good with keeping secrets as some others. Sometimes you're just walking around and they'll just be talking about, oh yeah, Fallout 5 is totally this awesome game. And you're like,
the W bar. Go camp out in the W bar.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's where everyone goes to leak their secrets.
There you go. So if you're in the San Francisco area around early March, head to the W bar, and then you won't have to listen to GameSpot.com anymore. You can just get it all from the source right there. Let us know what you think about The Last Guardian and some of those other games that we might see in 2015 in the comments below. All right, folks. We're going to be back in a little second to talk about The Order 1886, a game that I've only recently learned to get the date of right. I've been calling it 1866 forever, as like some sort of a pre-centenary call-out to the British England winning the World Cup. It's like stuck in my head. But until then, we've got a trailer for the latest standalone expansion pack for Total War. I think it's the 9th standalone expansion pack for this series of games. It says Total War Attila.
Sega.
The Order 1886. Nope.
No.
The wonder of these VOD segments is that we can just cut that shit, though. So I can just start from the start all over again. I swear to God, I've been calling 1886 for like... What year were you born in?
1988.
88. All right, you don't have this problem. What about you?
1966.
You were born in 1966?
Yeah, it's really funny.
Really? You look fresh-faced motherfucker.
I look young.
That's amazing. All right, let's go back to
secret.
let's go back to my single. We'll try that again. Thanks, Mel, Josh. Appreciate it. 1866. All right. It's not live, right? We're good? Good. There you go. All right. Fade up on me. The Order 1866. It's out later this week.
What? No!
1886.
1886.
Did I say 66 both times?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
I said what?
You said it right the first.
I said it right the first time.
You did.
Shit. I blame the English for winning the World Cup in 1966. Fade to black. Let's do it again. Third time's the charm. 86, right? All right. Alexa laughed right at the start. We gotta reset. We're back. We're going. Fade to black. There we go. It's okay. We'll fix it in post. Yeah.
Spit.
Professional. The third came up. I can't do it now. It'll cut in when the third's there. All right, we got it. The Order 1886 is out later this week on various computer game consoles. Our review of the game will be up on Thursday this week. But today it's gotten a bit of flack. It seems some folks in the UK put up a speed run of it, completing it in 5 hours. Justin, what's the deal?
Well, a lot of people have been concerned that there's going to be a lot more to watch in this game than there is to play. Some YouTube guy had an early copy of the game, apparently put up a 5-hour run, and it's not a lot of gameplay. Like, I mean, about half of that was cutscenes, but the developers have responded saying that is not actually the full game. That's not an accurate representation of everything that you're going to be able to play.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have a full answer pretty soon. We have one of our guys in the office, Kevin Van Ord,
Yes.
who is playing the game right now.
Yeah.
And I've gone by to check it out every now and then. But at the same time, I don't know that it's that huge of a problem that it would be a short game.
What, you think, like, if it's good enough, like $60 for a new release game?
That's too
only,
much
like...
for a 5-hour experience. If it's a 5-hour game, that's way too much. Like Telltale does like $5 an episode, and you get like an hour and a half, and that I can see.
Yeah.
And like the whole series is what, like 25, and you get maybe what, like 6-7 hours of gameplay. But I think $60 for 5 hours, if that's true, is like.
Well,
No.
it is. But at the same time, so I mean, because I work in the game industry, I actually don't get a lot of games for free because my work doesn't actually involve a lot of gameplay.
Yeah.
I pay for my own games, and I buy them on Steam really cheap,
Yeah.
or I wait for them to go on sale. So for me, it's usually like a $10, $20 investment. So for me, that length doesn't matter as much because I'm just going to buy it when it gets to that sweet spot. Like South Park, at $20, that was perfect. That's not a super long game, but $20, like, totally worth it for a 15-hour, 12-hour experience.
The thing that sticks out to me with this is, like, for instance, my brother or folks who don't play that many games, every year, though, he'll pick up Call of Duty. And he'll pick it up on launch, and it'll cost, $60. And he doesn't play multiplayer. So basically, he's playing a single-player game for $60. So what do you think? Why is it, like, when it comes to something like Call of Duty, where so many people only play single player, or so many people only play multiplayer, that we're like more forgiving there than we might be with something like this?
I mean, part of it is that excitement of playing that game, even if you're not playing it, multiplayer with your friends, but having that experience along with everybody else. Like, there's some movies that I'm going to go see in the theater. Like, I know it's not worth it. If I wait a couple months, I can just see it on Netflix or see it on rent it from Amazon online. But sometimes it's worth it just to be able to be a part of those conversations with everybody else and say, like, hey, did you like that part that happened in that movie that was so cool? And games can be the same way, but it's so much it's a much bigger investment. Like asking someone to spend $60 on day one, like,
and then
that's
spend
huge.
6 hours or 7 hours rather than. The one that this reminds me of actually is, have either of you played Spec Ops: The Line?
Yes.
So Spec Ops was not a long game. There was no multiplayer component to speak of. And it wasn't the best shooter in the world, but it was one of those games, like you were saying, Justin, that people were talking about. And I remember not picking up when it first came out, but there was so much buzz around what that game was attempting to do with its story that by the time it dropped down to about $40, I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a go. And then I felt like I had my money's worth. What did you think when you played it?
I don't know. I thought the story was very impactful. It sort of reminds me of, I know that game was that's like an 8-hour story in Spec Ops. I blew through Bioshock Infinite in like one 10-hour sitting.
Right.
And I paid $60 on launch and I got it and it was fine.
I did the same, actually. I was going on holidays and had to complete it in one night.
Because everyone was spoiling it. It was the worst. But I thought that Spec Ops The Line was powerful enough that I didn't really, when I finished it, I didn't really think, oh, I just spent $60 and only got 8 hours of entertainment. I didn't really think about it in that way. So I think it has a lot to do with, I think, what the game's trying to do and how people take the content. Like if you only have a single player story and it's, 8 hours, but it does what it does really well and keeps you engaged, I think that's money well spent. But if it feels like it's missing something, I can understand why people get upset about spending that much.
Well, and then we also have that juxtaposed against games that don't have a story at all, that are either $60 or in some cases free. I've spent hundreds of hours in Hearthstone, and I've paid a bit of money, not $60 worth, but
it's like 700 or so. I'm not keeping an eye on it.
Only like $2,000.
Yeah.
But that's something that has a lot of gameplay, regardless of how much money you put into it. It's something that you can take in those small parcels. I'm never going to sit and do a 10-hour stretch where I'm just going to play Hearthstone for 10 hours. But whereas Bioshock, that's something I will sit and just run through the first time. And I even played that one a second time because I wanted to do it at the harder difficulty, both because I really enjoyed the story and I wanted to get that experience again, but also to prove I can do it at a harder difficulty. So how do you gauge how much gameplay there is? If it's worth it to play through a second time, then it's suddenly twice as long. It's a weird thing.
I guess the answer to this is the really obvious answer is that if it's good enough, then it's worth the cash. So to that point, The Order 1886. Have any of you guys played it? Do you think it's... obviously, the version that's in the office at the moment, Kevin's playing.
Yeah.
None of us have played. That's under embargo anyway. Have you played it at any events?
I have.
What do you think? Because I've played it a bunch, and I know how I feel about it, so I'm interested in what you think, first of all.
Well, you and I had this conversation at the PlayStation Experience. It was the same. Every demo that I've played of the game so far, I feel like I can't pass judgment on it because every demo I've played is some variation of cutscene and then a close quarters combat situation. At PlayStation Experience, they had you grapple down the side of the
Zeppelin
thing, and then you're in a tight little
corridors, basically.
Like a house. You're in a house and you're shooting from the top and then you're shooting from the bottom and you're just clearing enemies out of a room and it's still very, very close. And then another one, you're in like a kitchen that's sort of set up like a maze and you're always this far away from your enemy. And I feel like I haven't really gotten enough time to explore what that game has to offer. Right now I just see it as like a hallway. So I'm interested to see what else there is.
That's like the problem with vertical slices that we get at these conferences. But the problem that I've had every time is that whenever I've seen trailers of it, it makes it look like a regular linear third-person action game. And when I've played it, people are saying oh, it's like a Gears of War type thing. It's like a year and a bit since the consoles come out, and here's a really good-looking, third-person action game. But when I've played it, it's felt so on rails in comparison to any third-person action game. It makes games like Spec Ops, the sections that I've played, feel like they're open worlds, where you can take different angles and attack the objectives in different ways. Whereas whenever I've played The Order, it's been shoot that guy, now shoot that guy, now press triangle, now do this thing, now look at this piece of inventory. So
it feels a lot more like Heavy Rain, for the
it feels
parts
a bit
that
more
I've
like
played.
Resident Evil 6, and that's not in terms of I don't want to say in terms of quality because that's not what I'm getting at, but in terms of here is a section of a game, play it the way it's meant to be played. If you don't, you die. Go back to the start. Every demo I've played, it's felt like that. So that's the worry. I think this week's going to be really interesting when those reviews hit.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Kevin thinks about it. I'm interested to try it out myself. Like you said, it's weird. It's hard when you're only given a small part of a game and you're not able to really experience all the different parts of it. And what we've seen isn't necessarily indicative of the whole game. We're also told the same things that everybody else hears. There's a lot more to it. There's all these different things.
Yeah.
And that's what we know about the game. And we expect different things. But it's weird that it's set up like a shooter when what we've played doesn't quite feel like that yet.
I guess we'll find out pretty soon. Thursday, 5 a.m. Pacific is when the embargo lifts on The Order 1886. We'll have a review up on GameSpot.com. That's 8 a.m. Eastern. That should be pretty interesting. We'll see later in the week how good that game is. Let us know what you think in the comments below. All right, folks, the folks from Bossa Studios are here to talk about Bread, Surgeons, and a bunch more new stuff they have up their sleeves. But first of all, let's check out a trailer for the new PS4 game, Hands of Fate, F-A-T-E. Spell it! Hello, welcome back to the lobby. I'm very happy to be joined by the folks from Bossa Studios. Luke and Enrique, how you doing, my friends?
Hey, good.
Hey.
Great to have you on the show, all the way over from London town.
Yes.
Exactly.
You enjoying the weather over here in the west coast of the States?
Yeah, it was sunny yesterday. Yeah.
I think you only bought t-shirts, didn't you? I think you thought it was warmer
Oh, really?
than it was.
Yeah.
Everyone here is Californian and goes, it's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
And it was on Sunday, and it's kind of gone down.
Yeah, it's gone back to sort of early.
Not as bad as the rest of America, which
No.
is covered in snow.
Yeah.
I think this is the only part of America that's not covered under like 50 feet of snow. Was it MIT have like a...
The Alps of MIT, where they have like a 3-story pile of snow outside one of the buildings.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
I wish it was like that.
So for the folks who might not, the word Bossa Studios sort of triggers something in their head, but they don't know who exactly you are. Tell us about some of the games you've made.
So we're probably most known for Surgeon Simulator and I Am Bread at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, and now Worlds Adrift
Yes.
is one of the games that we're working on in parallel to I Am Bread.
Looking forward to talking to you guys about that, especially as it's a little bit different to what some folks are
Yeah.
used to. So like Surgeon Simulator was a game that came out sort of the same way games like Goat Simulator have, where there's like this really interesting initial hook and it like piques people's interest, and then they see videos of the game and realize, oh, there's actually quite a lot to this. How did
Yeah.
the game come about? How did you come up with it?
So that was Global Game Jam 2013. Me and 3 other guys just went along to like a nearby college in London and just kind of decided to go kind of stupid, make ourselves laugh because we were going to be awake for 48 hours.
Right. What was the hook? Because there's usually like a one sentence like hook for a game jam, right? That you have to like have like.
Yeah. So it's basically like a theme, and the theme of that year's was just the sound of a heartbeat.
Okay.
And we went literal.
Yeah.
About as literal as you could go. And then the result was Surgeon Simulator, yeah. And then it kind of like the Monday after the game jam, like literally like within 24 hours of finishing it, it kind of went all over kind of like YouTube, and there was all this buzz about it, and we had no idea. Like we were taken completely by surprise.
Yeah.
Studio as well, like
Yeah,
we had no idea.
We stopped on our tracks and say, okay, stop everything, guys. Get out of your projects, just get together, and then let's take Surgeon forward. And then, lo and
Yeah.
behold, 48 days later, we released on Steam.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did this 48 hours into 48 days.
Yeah.
and it was a good segue there.
And then now, like a few weeks ago, didn't we hit 2 million kind of sales on the
On
game.
Surgeon.
On
Yeah.
Surgeon Simulator, yeah.
So when you're doing the game jams, is it mostly just to like flex your muscles as a creative, or do you actually go into those thinking, oh, we might end up coming out with something? Like, was it that surprising?
Yeah, no 2 game jams are the same. We always try new formats and new themes and new
Yeah.
constraints and new freedoms. The only thing we never did was anything goes. Because when we tried that once, or we never did, we did once, right? The first one, it was terrible.
Yeah.
The first 6 game jams or so, we didn't come up
No,
with
mine
some
was
good
alright.
stuff.
My game was
Yeah,
My game was quite good. We still know.
So is that like a little bit of restriction sort of forces you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah,
isn't
it gets you your creativity
Well, I
going.
mean, what's good is that we work with other people in the studios. We have different kind of teams, like the Iron Bread team, like the Worlds Adrift team and stuff like that. And the game jams are great because you start working with different people, and then like you don't really know what's going to come out of it. I mean, Iron Bread was a year and a half after kind of the whole Surgeon stuff.
Yeah.
We had 50 or 60 kind of game ideas in between that time.
Oh, really? That
and
never just made
exactly.
it to that
Yeah,
level.
you kind of you get a good feeling sometimes just from the reaction from other people in the studio and stuff when a kind of game is starting to kind of come together.
So how did Iron Bread end up being the game that you wanted to go with?
It was
As we
just
check
like,
out this hot gameplay
I
of
know,
Iron Bread.
So it was a game jam last year, and I found the idea of, like, with surgeon we had like the one task that we give you, which is like perform a heart transplant, right? Really simple, easy to understand, kind of. Well, it's not really simple, but it's easy to understand. And with Iron Bread, I like the idea of just a piece of bread who would want to become toast, and that's it. Like, so every level you go into, it's like become toast, and that's something that kind of players can understand and kind of get behind. And then we just messed around with trying to get the controls right. So the actual game jam was just, how do we get that movement? How do you move a bread around a level? Like, you can control stick and then just use A to jump, right? But then you're just replacing a character with a piece of bread, and that's not very interesting.
Yeah.
So the whole kind of like four corners and flopping it around those, kind of, you know, after the end of the game jam, it kind of worked, and we saw it, and we're like, yeah, there's something there. Like, and I think the key thing is it's something that you can get good at. Like Surge and everyone who first plays it is awful.
Yeah.
But then you see the speed runs and the world records, and these guys are as dexterous as like it was their real hand, you know.
And like you were saying before, Enrique, it's a game that all of the controls and all of what the player can do is actually doable from the start of the game. It's not like you're leveling up or like giving them new abilities or anything.
No,
so for the
it's all
player,
on
it's really
you.
satisfying.
Yeah, it's all on you. You progress as a player, right? And also the other aspect is that you kind of foreshadow what you can do in the game. Oh, maybe if I drop from that ledge or grab that brick and throw into the car windshield, I can get inside the car. And when you realize you can actually do that, it's such a buzz, it's such a good surprise. And I think the controls came out of that as well. It's the surprise of, okay, I can move the bread around like very poorly like this, and all of a sudden you realize you can flip and rotate, and it's such an
when people
efficient
kind of
method to get around.
to understand the weight of the bread and kind of its floppiness, and they can kind of like swing and wrap themselves around like shelves, and then they can climb that way, and it's it's just kind of.
Are you like masters of QWOP? Is that?
I have no idea. I don't know. We just kind of
I tried a few times. Terrible.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, actually, like most developers have to explain to their parents like how weird their job is. Like, I work on this thing, or like for you guys, it's actually quite a lot weirder.
Yeah.
I made a game where you get to control.
Because people always ask like, what kind of games did you go?
Yeah.
Oh, like Surgeon Simulator and Iron Bread, and they go, oh, what's that? And it's like, oh, you control one hand.
Yeah, presumably when you
cut a
tell
guy
people
up.
you made Surgeon Simulator, they think you're making like medical research software.
Yeah.
That's the first reaction. People who don't play games.
Yeah.
That right, okay, that's very
okay.
useful. We actually got once. I think it was at Resd or Eurogamer. Someone from NHS stopped by.
No.
Yeah.
And they left the card and everything. They want to get in touch.
Well, they were like, oh, do you want any kind of like medical sort of like, you know, advice or like someone like kind
Consulting
Of, right,
or
yeah,
something,
consultation. And I'm like, I don't think this is the right game for that.
That's great.
Right.
I was talking to Armin, one of the guys from Goat Simulator, and they said that they had people reaching out to them as goat experts, saying like, oh, if you want, I can consult with you for a nominal fee on like really interesting things about goats. So apparently it's indicative of all of games.
Yeah, I think it's the moment you attach a simulator to it.
Right.
Well, and some games like Plague Inc. I don't know if you played that one. It's you know, one where you're simulating a plague spreading across the world, and they tied in with the CDC and like to get that to kind of be accurate afterward. Like I think the game came out first, and then the CDC reached out and like, here's how we can make this even more of an accurate simulation of this.
Wow, that's kind of dark. It's like the Ebola expansion pack
You're fighting.
or something.
No, and so you're actually spreading the disease. That's
Yeah, you're not fighting it.
Yeah, it's not a pandemic. Which
Your goal is to murder everyone in the world.
Yeah.
It was the CDC who did like how fast the proper zombie apocalypse would spread. They did this exercise, didn't they?
They investigated it in World of Warcraft because way back they had
the virus.
They had a blood plague that someone took from a dungeon and like unleashed it in the capital cities, and everyone was dying. And then it said like CDC were really interested in how it spread, and because it was kind of like the first sort of virtual disease spread that like we've kind of.
It's weird. Games getting into all sorts of interesting areas. You guys, have you ever like been criticized for? There's games out there that are clearly made for like, oh, we're trying to get Twitch and like YouTubers to play these games. You know, let's come up with a zany idea, like something like Meme Run sort of pops into mind, where it's actually not very good game at all. But it's like it's clearly made for just people to play for the sake of it. Air Control is another one that came out last year. Do you guys get that a lot? Any stick for that?
We did get for Bread a little bit. Surgeon not, because Surgeon was one of the big ones who broke
the first ones.
To actually like kind of make sales out of that kind of thing, I think, and then people, you know.
Yeah, they set the precedence. But on Iron Bread, we got a little bit of flack saying that, oh, it's all YouTube bait and so on. And it took a while for the first Let's Plays to come out and people realize it's actually gameplay involved.
Yeah.
Because that's how we start. We start from core gameplay, and always. The theme comes afterwards.
Yeah, because you've got like 2 days to make these games. You don't have time to.
No, in 2 days you can barely get something working, right? If you had to throw all these requirements on top, has to be good for YouTube, has to be a zany idea, we end up with nothing.
And presumably that's not the methodology you've taken with Worlds Adrift. Like, how has this game come out of the out of your studio? Is it another game jam situation?
Yeah, it was a game jam, a slightly more ambitious game jam. And again, it's taking that kind of physics thing and something that is a base skill that doesn't change throughout the game, but you can get really good at. And in this instance, it's very much like a Spider-Man-esque grappling hook. There's not been very many kind of good Spider-Man games.
No, there was one
recently.
really good one on the PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2, exactly. Yeah, we had a look at that one because that was the one everyone went to and went, that's how you do like swing mechanics.
Yeah.
So we kind of took a look at that one. It's got like inertia and all that kind of stuff that feels really nice. So we definitely looked at that one. But with this, you can assign basically wherever you attach, and so if you can be swinging through a forest and you can manually attach a rope to every single branch just because of the way so it takes a while to learn. But you can get like Surgeon Style and Iron Bread. But when you get really good at it, you get really good at it. And we've seen people like flinging themselves off of their airships and launching onto someone else's, then taking them out that way.
And that's just the starting point, because the whole thing, the whole game is physics-based, thanks to our chaps at Improbable helping us out with the underlying engine. But things like if you attach 4 or 5 people to an engine on a ship, your weight is going to rip it off.
Excellent.
And you can fling yourself because you can actually rotate, you can entangle the grappling
kind
hooks.
of wraps.
Oh, it wraps around?
Yeah. So if you're like kind of swinging, you hit an object, you'll kind of build up speed because suddenly it's like whoom, and that's how you kind of can catapult yourself or other things at people.
Or you can grappling hook to a propeller. That is fun as well.
So you just end up
Or if
get-
on a ship just like harpoon to like one of their engines and just yank it clean off, and then their ship's kind of flying all wonky. And,
So it kind of reminds me a bit of Just Cause multiplayer when people started getting really fun with that sort of stuff.
And the game itself, it seems much more serious than some of your other games. And I'm sure other people, look at Surgeon as in-depth as those can be, Surgeon Simulator and Iron Bread. They're kind of silly, but it seems like you guys actually learned a lot from those that you're able to bring to this.
Yeah, it's a bigger game for sure, but we have moments of silliness, like, because we're like swinging around and we love our kind of physics and stuff, like, if you swing yourself into a rock or into a tree branch, your character will get knocked out and kind of just dangle there on the rope, so you're kind of left like vulnerable, and that kind of stuff's fun to do. But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's you kind of gathering a crew if you want, and you all kind of invest yourself in this one ship that you build together.
And you build the ships as well.
Yeah, you build the ships, then you can basically you fly off to the different kind of those islands. It's kind of Wind Waker Skies of Arcadia inspired, and you see those silhouettes in the distance, you're like, I want to go there. And then you can kind of traverse through kind of weathers and storms, and obviously you can run into other players who may attack or may not attack you and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of emergent gameplay as well, which is a hallmark of both Bread and Surgeon, in which we have no idea how the players are going to interact and create the rules, how they're going to board another ship, what tactics they will come up with to destroy their engines and take over their ships, etc. That's what we hope for. It's people using the game that we created to make stuff that we could not imagine that could be done.
Because like in the latest playtest where you're on a ship kind of firing at another one, and one of the players from that ship was like, I've got to take out him, so he swung onto the ship without him realizing, grabbed another cannon on the deck, and then just clean just shot at his cannon. And him and the cannon went flying off because you're kind of attached to these little like seated sort of turrets. And him and the cannons went flying off the edge of the ship, and then that was it. Like you'd taken out the threat or whatever.
Yeah, and as I fell to my horrible death, I could see the 3 ships firing at each other.
But I said, like, we had no idea you could really do that.
Yeah, we didn't program. We never knew that it could be done.
Yeah, we knew the ships would obviously, like, kind of bits would detach, but when someone went and just grabbed another turret on the same ship and went, boom, and just fired it at the deck.
Is that, like, an important thing for you guys in terms of, like, you've always been very good at getting your games out to people, so, like, with Surgeon, when Surgeon came out, you actually added loads of stuff to it, presumably based on some feedback you got from the community. And Iron Bread is the same situation. You've still got a team working on it right now. Have you taken like that similar methodology with Worlds Adrift? Because I remember the first trailer you put out was very much a like, let us know what you think, come play it, and should this be an idea that we go with? So are you listening to the community? How much do you listen to the community?
We have to listen far more. Well, everything that went a lot of the stuff that went in Surgeon and a lot of the stuff that's going into Bread right now comes from the community. They ask for, oh, let's put the baguette in, and let's put the free roaming mode.
Kind of stuff,
They ask it a lot for that. But they are smaller games. We can see the beginning of the game and visualize it and say, it's a good game. You put a video out, people get interested, and we carry on development and early access or whatever. But with Worlds Adrift is different because such a huge enterprise. So we have to do that from the beginning. And it's already paying off. I think that was the third video we put out. We focus on a little bit on gathering resources and crafting.
Yeah.
It's not the core of the game at all, but it was an aspect of the game that we just finished doing, so we showed off. And people didn't enjoy it as much as the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I think people, they've just been like, oh no, it's just another survival game.
Yeah, right, yeah. Easy to get reductive
and we have
that way.
none of the like taking care of your character and like feeding them. We're not interested in that. It's like kind of preserving your airship in a way and making sure you can kind of keep on flying.
Yeah, but that informed us to say, okay, well, we need crafting and we need gathering, but this is enough. Now we move on to other stuff, which is more interesting and so on. So measuring those reactions from people, it's not like they are telling us what to do, but they are guiding our hand in which area we focus on. It's so much better to do it that way than release a game and realize that we did so many mistakes along the way.
Once it's out, then it's almost too late to sort of address those issues. So for folks who are watching now who want to get in and play it as early as possible, I know you've got like a sign up on your website. Like, how can they get in and actually?
Kind of like worldsadrift.com. We have you can just email sign up or whatever. Or just keep your tabs on that. We have like kind of blog posts every week. And we're kind of releasing new information and stuff. And then eventually, when we do get to kind of some closed betas and stuff, we'll kind of send out a few invites and kind of get people into there.
Yeah, it's not very far. We like to do things as early as possible. So we feed up on this whole thing that let's get the feedback.
So any idea when we'll get a closed beta or open beta at some stage?
No,
maybe this year?
Yeah, it's definitely
this year.
Actually.
Yeah. Probably the first half of the year. Yeah.
Do you think you would ever combine the worlds so that as you're going through Worlds Adrift, you would see like a little piece of, like go into a kitchen, like, oh, there's a piece of toast moving.
I'll be incredibly annoyed if there isn't any kind of surgeon or bread references in the game at some point.
You're going to create like the Bossa universe, where everything's tied in together, including like your old Facebook games that all exist in there as well.
Those are very, very early on.
Excellent. Lads, thank you very much, Luke.
Yeah, good time.
Very pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. Best of luck. We look forward to seeing more of Worlds Adrift throughout the rest of 2015.
Yeah,
thank you.
Awesome. Thanks to everyone for watching the lobby this week. If you have any feedback, as ever, please put it in the comments below. Next week, hopefully, we're going to talk a bunch about the Order 1886. Yo, never forget. I'm going to get it tattooed in like Gothic script on my inside of my arm, and be like, yeah, that's the centenary of before I was born. Yeah, don't worry, we're not live. It doesn't matter. Thanks. What'd you say?
You're good.
We're good. We're good to go, Mary. Right. All right. Let's wrap this shit up. Have a great week, everyone. We will see you next week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on the lobby. Take care.